Stuck in the 80s podcast. Psh, psh, it really whips the llama's ass.
So good. So good.
Steve's like, what?
This show is over.
What is happening?
Oh my gosh, we have reached peak Stuck in the 80s.
Travel back in time to the 80s, reliving the shenanigans,
It was the early 80s, and sex was still a good way to meet new people.
the disappointment,
Now, that's a real shame when folks be throwing away a perfectly good white boy like that.
and the self-confidence.
I'm 6 foot, 3 inches tall, and maintain a very consistent panda bear shape.
Because just like you, we're stuck in the 80s.
Sure, it's not 1985 right now, but who knows what tomorrow will bring?
Hey, welcome to Stuck in the 80s. It's your time-traveling friend, Steve Spears.
And Brad in LA, baby.
And today we've voyaged back 40 years to the fall of 1982 to honor 3 albums that are turning 40 years old.
Getting old sucks. Don't let anybody tell you any different.
One take. This is going to be it. Stuck in the 80s is sponsored by the 80s Cruise. Join Stuck in the 80s in 2023 for a week-long trip back into time on board the Royal Caribbean Navigator of the Seas. Performers will include Devo, Brett Michaels, Kim Wilde, The Church, Howard Jones, Living Colour, Jody Watley, The Smithereens, Vixen, Cutting Crew, Midyear, Autograph, Tone Loc, and more. And first-time guests, I know you're out there. You want to go. You can get $200 of cabin credit just by using the promo code STUCK when booking. That's STUCK, $200 cabin credit. Do it today. Go to stuckinthe80s.com. Damn, I was so close. Just go to www.the80scruise.com for more information.
I'm sorry!
That's enough, Howie. That's enough, dear.
I'm
That's
awfully
just fine.
sorry.
Hey, everyone, we're back. I'm sorry it's taken so long, but life's been a little hectic lately.
Oh, sweet Jesus. You are not just kidding, mister.
I knew that was going to elicit a response from Mr. Williams.
I mean, not to get into a lot of details, but there's been a lot going on.
I feel bad because we left everyone hanging with the Olivia Newton-John Memorial Tribute Show, and that's kind of dark.
Yeah, we're gonna pick you up today. We're gonna put you on our shoulders. We're gonna carry you around 80s Nation like the champs that you are, listeners.
Yeah, so it's September 2022 right now. If we look back on the calendar, yeah, it's 40 years since September 1982. And so what we're going to do, each one of us is going to represent one album that means a lot to us. We'll give you some of the signature tunes, some of the deep cuts. We'll give you lots of trivia. There'll certainly be some references to, God knows, with Brad and Chuck on the show, there could be references to anything.
Wait, Chuck's on the show?
Hey, damn, see?
Whoa, Coverly, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm here.
Have you been back there all this time behind Steve?
I have been hiding in the wings.
I got a Papasan chair here in the office that Chuck likes to sit on.
A Papasan-shaped futon.
It's terrifying.
I just saw one of those for sale the other day in Walmart. Just the frame, not Walmart. What was it? It's like Ye Old Pottery Village, some chain of low rent, bric-a-brac kind of household goods, but they were selling Papasan frames, cushion not included.
Oh,
hell's
no
that all
cushion.
about?
So it was like that part from the Mousetrap game.
No
Yeah,
cushion, no peace. Yeah, exactly.
Did everybody, I'm assuming everybody listening to this had one of those in the 80s, right? It had a Papasan chair like that.
Yeah, sure.
And
I had neither a Papasan chair nor a Mousetrap game, but I know exactly of what you speak, Chuck Coverly.
Yes.
So versed he is in pop culture lore.
You are the Duke of New York. You're a number one.
Indeed.
Anyway, so 1982, 40 years. Shit.
Man.
I know, it's depressing as hell.
So whenever I'm always posting these the charts, the Billboard charts, and I'll go back and I'm always trying to find, because it just hits me every once in a while. I'm like, oh, let's throw a chart up, and I'll go and I'll look and see what day in the 80s corresponds with that week's chart. And sometimes it's like 80, 81, 82, and I go, holy crap, man, 40 years ago. Like, I can't even.
It's it's best not to dwell on that. So let's talk about something else.
No, so let's celebrate the goodness that was 1982. First of all, and I don't know why I wrote this down first.
I know, I'm shocked.
It's the year Madonna made her debut. Can anyone name her first single? Her first single?
Holiday?
Borderline?
Nope.
Borderline?
Nope.
Holiday? Borderline?
I Hate Steve.
I can picture the album, right? It's the black and white one with her on the cover, like just the close up of the face.
I hear people typing and you're cheating, you sons of bitches.
I am not.
No, that's just my desk creaking.
The song was Everybody, and it was released on October 6th, 1982.
Everybody, come on, dance and sing. Everybody, get up and do your thing.
Huh.
Yeah. Some people lost some money today.
And guess what, Steve Spears? It was on the B side.
Yeah.
It was on the other side of the album.
This is the year that, of course, we get Thriller from Michael Jackson. It's the year the first US Festival. It's the year Adam Ant releases his first solo album, Friend or Foe.
It's all I could do to not rep that album. I know it wasn't released in September, but I don't care.
That's why. It's the year that Ozzy bites the head off the bat. And it's the first year that compact discs appear in music stores in Japan.
So shiny.
And like Chuck said, it is so full of songs that define the decade. Are you ready? Come On Eileen by Dexy and the Midnight Runners, Hurts So Good by John Mellencamp, The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Eye of the Tiger by Survivor, More Than This, Roxy Music, Hungry Like the Wolf, Duran Duran, I Ran, Flock of Seagulls, You Dropped a Bomb on Me by the Gap Band. Come on.
Homina. It's good stuff. It's a good year.
It is a good year. And it's the year that gives us these three albums that we adore so much. And we were happy that they were released in September. That's giving us a chance 4 decades later to wobble, to race, to wobble on this
May
journey.
Have to dream.
Podcast
a dream
journey.
Within a dream.
It was this for me, or reading a John Grisham novel and falling asleep at 9:30. So I'm going to choose the podcast.
Nice.
So, Brad, let's get started. What's your signature album from 1982, the month of September?
September 1982 saw record stores graced with the album that featured this song. That's Promised You a Miracle. I know you recognize that from the Simple Minds album New Gold Dream 81, 82, 83, 84.
I hope you explain that.
I don't have a good answer for that. It doesn't. My kids make so much fun of this song in particular and the album title for the, like, what are they counting? I saw some references on the internet that I couldn't really corroborate, that it was like they were talking about when there was going to be their heyday or when they had a contract with a certain record company and stuff like that. I don't think it matters. But this is a fantastic album, and let me tell you why it's a fantastic album. So it's the sixth studio album from Scottish Mind Simple Bands, which is Simple Minds, which is shocking. But when I tell you the next thing, you're going to say, oh, this is why I don't remember those first 5. The first 5 albums were kind of either sort of semi-punk or art rock, and the critics loved them, which meant nobody bought the albums. And so in 1982, they pivoted to a more radio-friendly sound, which just shows up on this album. And I think this is really interesting. They did that after they did a tour supporting Icehouse in Australia. And this tour kind of gave them a taste of fame. In 2012, Jim Kerr, lead singer, said, "You don't expect much reaction as a support band, but people were going nuts." In Australia, they had fantastic pirate-style radio, and all the British stuff was being played on bootlegs, from the Banshees right through, well, us. And these stations had huge ratings, and we heard ourselves being played all the time. We left the country with gold discs. And he said, "I remember feeling this pop star lark, this is pretty good." I don't think it's any coincidence the first song we wrote when we got back was as catchy as Promised You a Miracle. So they went on a tour. People liked them. They're like, hey, people buying our records. This is awesome. We should make more stuff people want to buy.
So didn't they say that the they did take a departure from what they were their roots.
Yeah, I mean, it's
They-
definitely a pivot. The other thing that I don't think I put the quote in here. The other thing that they said that Jim had said in an interview was this period of time the band was just clicking. Like they weren't arguing, stuff was coming together. They all agreed on the direction. It was like this kind of golden time for them, and I think that is reflected in the album. I think the album just is such a tight piece of work.
Oh yeah, easily. There's a song in here, and I know it's not your deep cut, but to me, it's one of my maybe my favorite song by Simple Minds. Somewhere in summertime. Oh jeez.
It was close. I almost put that in there just because I like to pander to you, but I decided I could pander to you more effectively if I use this because it's featured on the Elizabethtown soundtrack.
Oh, nice. I love that.
Ah, see?
I got a weird attachment to that movie, but I've already talked about that enough.
That's okay. Yeah, so this song, it kind of snuck into the U.S. like it was on a tourist visa. It shows up on the dance charts. It didn't really go very far, but it did get to number 13 on the U.K. charts. I let me just be 100% transparency. I didn't even know who Simple Minds was in 1982. I came to this much later, and I kind of tried to figure out what led me to Simple Minds, and I think it was probably K-Rock, that the singles from this were still getting played when I moved to LA in the mid 80s. It wasn't until much later that I heard this whole album. I mean, was this something you guys were aware of or was on your radar in 1982?
Not in 1982. I wasn't into Simple Minds. I saw them on tour when they were promoting Once Upon a Time in 1986 or 7. And they played a lot of this album. And I've been a fan ever since. That was an amazing show. They're one of those great live bands.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've talked about this on the pod. I saw them, it was early 2000s in LA, and I just was blown away. They were so good.
Chuck, have you seen them?
No. Now the only song I know is the obvious one. You know, I don't want to say it because it's embarrassing.
It's okay, say it. Say it.
Don't you forget about me. Yeah, that's the only song that's what brought them onto my radar. I heard other songs. I have heard other songs since then, but they were definitely not on, my radar in 82 or 83.
I will say that this is one of those bands that, and probably the top of the list of big 80s bands that I became a fan of much later.
Like the song Belfast Child. I'd never heard that song when it first came out, but you listen to it today and it's just like, ugh. Where's this?
So now you're making me want to go back and listen.
See the Lights.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Play See the Lights. You'll be, oh gosh.
Yeah.
Is that all on this album?
No.
No,
I'm just pulling stuff out of, and Love Song from the album before this, and Belfast Child, and we need to reinstate the instrumentals show so I can talk about is it Themes for Cities, or I forget exactly what it's called, Themes for Big Cities.
Yeah. Well, Chuck, if you go and you get the live album, it's called I think it was in 1987. It's called Simple Minds Live in the City of Light. It was recorded in Paris. And it was recorded during the Once Upon a Time tour. So you get to basically hear almost every important song that they'd ever done at that point.
Like the greatest, not the greatest hits or the best
feels
of.
like it.
But it was it's a big concert
best
set. So they would have played they would have been working on Police in the Crowd there for sure.
Yeah, but it was amazing. And I remember Jim Kerr talking about it, saying that they knew that tour was like, they were just on fire. It was just, they were hitting all the right notes, and so they're like, we got to record this, we got to put this down and make a live album, which at that point in the 80s I think was largely not a thing anymore.
Yeah, you weren't seeing a lot of that. Yeah. That's true.
And certainly not by like new wave bands, if you want to call Simple Minds new wave.
Yeah.
But it's one of those rare ones where I remember I bought it and I was just like, oh, this is amazing. I need to find it on DVD so I could just watch it endlessly on a loop while I cry.
I'm going to say this isn't I'm going to say this is new romantic, not new wave.
That's a better label.
What do they qualify themselves as? Do they categorize themselves, put them in a box at all?
I don't know. Let me see if I can get Jim on the phone here.
I have his email address.
Look at you, name dropper.
Shoot him a quick email and see what he says.
He when I interviewed him, I don't know. It's probably been 10 years, 12 years. He had done some solo work, and so he was available for interviews. And I talked to him, and he's such a great guy.
Yeah.
At the very end, he said something about, "Oh, if you're ever in Scotland, just email me." And I'm like, okay. And he gave me his email address, and I still have it somewhere.
Well, we got to get you to Scotland then.
Yeah, no kidding.
Let's take a Stuck in the 80s podcast trip.
Yeah, we need to
schedule
go to
something. Go to the
what's
UK.
the big
do a
80s
UK tour.
festival in the UK?
They do
have
have
tons of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we
The-
should
the
go over. We
thing
could
is,
set up
I mean,
a booth.
UK
give out-
Palooza.
We could give out Spearsies.
He is such a good guy. If there's any one person who I think might actually remember giving me his email address, it would be someone like Jim Kerr. So, anyway.
Well, let me give you my deep track from this before we spend too much more time on it. This is my deep cut. It's the title track from the album.
81, 82, 83, 84.
Now, this is a song you don't hear too often.
No,
hence
you really
deep
don't.
cut.
This is a song I've never heard in my life.
Oh, it's so good. And now I'll tell you why it's so good. The album title, New Gold Dream, was taken from a headline on a magazine review for a art house movie called Fitzcarraldo, which, as we all remember from the reading, is the 1982 West German epic adventure drama film written, produced, and directed by Werner Herzog. I won't read the rest of this because it doesn't really matter. But Jim Kerr was quoted as saying, "Our previous albums had a lot of darkness. Traveling through Europe at that time, there was the Red Brigade in Italy, neo-Nazis in Germany. We passed through Paris, and a bomb had just gone off in a synagogue, and it made a big impression. New Gold Dream was just a new dawn." And I have no idea what they're singing about in this song. I know they count some years or numbers at some point, but I want to just wrap myself in it and just hang out on the inside of this song. It's not quite. It's walking a line between rock and roll and electronic trance music somehow. It just kind of has this groove that just carries you along. I can't describe it any more than that. Like I said, I have no idea what they're talking about. I don't care. I love the sound of it. I just want to soak in it.
I thought you were going to say, I just want to be inside of it. I was just going to be like, oh, stop.
I do. I want to wrap the song around me like a nice blanket on a snuggly, cool evening.
With hot cocoa.
Ooh, will you bring me the hot cocoa, Tuxie?
With the little marshmallows and my hot cocoa.
Okay, I'm going to bring it all back down. Ready? Female listeners, run from the room. It's Rush. This is obviously subdivisions from the album Signals, which I was listening to this again the other day, and I'm like, I believe this was the last Rush album that I paid for. And
you stole them after that.
I knew you were going to say that, but during my time when we started the podcast at the St. Pete Times, a lot of times the record companies would send us promo copies of all the albums to review. So,
oh, nice.
So Snakes and Arrows, I remember getting that from Rush and listening to like one track and then tossing it aside. But Signals, I was still like 1982. I hadn't transitioned into my new wave stuff, so I was still kind of clinging to prog rock. You know, I still wanted my Styx. I still wanted Rush. I still wanted, Journey and Triumph and stuff like that.
These guys have jumpsuits and long hair. I'll buy that.
Signals is the 9th album by Rush, released in
Wow.
September 82. It peaked at number 1 in Canada. Big shocker. Number 3.
All 43 people in Canada bought a copy.
And let's make one thing straight here, because we got accused of this by a long time and loyal listener. We love Canada on the podcast, but he's insistent that we do nothing but insult his country. And I
might have just done that, but
I love Canada. And every day that passes in the political world of the United States, I love Canada even more. So don't be surprised to see me wrapped in maple leaf flags here before another couple years goes by. Anyway, number 1 in
Maple.
Canada, number 3 in the UK, number 10 in the US. The highest charting song on the album, not Subdivisions, which I think everyone who listens to this podcast knows this song, right? Right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yes.
New World Man was actually the highest charting song.
Really?
They
I
never
don't know
even
why
played
that it seems like that's an ELO song that got trapped in a Rush album.
Yeah, maybe. I did see the band perform circa this time. They had put out an album called Exit Stage Left, which was a live album based on their Moving Pictures tour. And on the Exit Stage Left tour, they were playing New World Man and Subdivision. So that was the first time we heard those songs. The band has said over the years that this album was not meant to sound like Moving Pictures. But doesn't it kind of, to you guys, still sound like Moving Pictures a little bit?
I used to goof with a friend of mine who was a huge Rush fan that they all sounded the same. So I'm going to say yes.
just gotta stick with the bit.
Yeah.
So yes.
The instrumentation, it's a trio. You don't have a whole lot of room to go different places. So yeah, there's definitely some similarities there.
I mean, this might be the album that's heaviest on the synths. But
no, that's fair.
I think I just sprayed my computer monitor trying to say that word. But Rolling Stone thought differently in their review. They gave it 2 stars, and they wrote, Rush makes a strong argument for the view that advanced technology is not necessarily the same as progress.
Oh, Rolling Stone. Shut up, Jan Wenner.
Unfortunately, they do so largely by screwing up. Although Signals is a chock-a-block with state-of-the-studio gadgetry ranging from the requisite bands of synthesizers to the latest in digital recording and mixing. None of these electronic add-on enhances the group's music. If anything, Rush emerges from this jungle of wires and gizmos sounding duller than ever.
That's unnecessarily harsh.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, stock and trade for such a publication.
Yeah. Those Rolling Stone and Rush never got along. Anyway, Subdivisions, everyone knows the song. It's about teenagers dealing with the cool kids and feeling cast out of the popular cliques. It is probably, I would guess, one of the few songs where we actually know what it's about.
Yeah, we don't have to read Ayn Rand to figure this one out.
So Neil Peart wrote the lyrics. He says, of course, it's autobiographical. The word, this is something I always kind of wondered. The title of the song, Subdivision, is a word that's only used twice per chorus. And that's actually Neil saying it, although Alex Lifeson lip syncs it in the video and on stage. Why, I do not know.
Maybe it's just so he knows where they are in the song.
When they play Time Stand Still, he doesn't lip sync that. I mean, that's Amy Mann. We take for granted that it's a recorded version of Amy Mann, but whatever.
So who was playing the synth stuff?
Geddy Lee.
Geddy was, yeah.
And then he would play, if he had to do both at the same time, he had pedals that could also fill in for the bass.
So you're talking about performing this live with just the three of them. Yeah.
Yep.
That'd be impressive.
They were good.
Sequencer? Huh.
I saw them twice. They are fun to watch, and they are tight, and their stage show has a, especially in the later years, a nice element of comedy to it and a real sense of humor to it.
Nice.
Anyway, I do, of course, have a deep cut. I'm picking this
Steve,
one because...
what's your deep cut?
I'm picking this one because I'm such a space nerd. This is Countdown. This is about the first launch of the space shuttle, which the band actually got invited to Florida to watch, and they saw it from the VIP area.
It's lucky bastards.
We had to watch it on television.
I know, from half a continent away.
Yeah.
I think I called out of school that day.
It was a Sunday morning.
Was it? Sunday school. I called out.
Nice catch, Chuck Coverly.
Yeah.
I tip my cap to you.
I remember writing. I wrote a report about it, and I remember getting up and watching, and it was a whole other podcast that we can do.
Yeah. I do remember this about watching it. I remember because after years of watching the Saturn rockets take off and that slow ascent, the space shuttle just takes off like someone had it on a rubber band.
It gets up and goes. Yeah,
I remember watching going, oh no, that's not right. Something's wrong here.
Too fast. It's too fast.
Too fast. Too high. Anyway, the countdown was later used as a wake-up song for astronauts on the final flight of Space Shuttle Columbia in 2002. So, of course, it would be the year later that it would break up over Texas. So
it's not Russia's fault.
No, it is not Russia's fault.
Structural integrity was not compromised.
Although I'm sure Rolling Stone would like it to believe that it was.
I'm sure they have.
Chuck, what's your album from 1982? September?
I'm so excited for this one because it has a personal connection. I have a personal connection just because I was such a big Billy Joel fan at the time. Well, we'll talk about that. But my album is Billy Joel, Nylon Curtain.
Well, we're living here in Allentown, and they're closing all the factories down. Out in Bethlehem, they're killing time, filling up arms, standing in line. Well, our fathers fought the Second World War, spent their weekends on the Jersey Shore. Met our mothers in the USO, asked them to dance with the slow. And we're living here in Allentown.
Yeah, so my signature song was going to be either Allentown or Pressure. I wasn't sure. Allentown actually peaked, I think, at number 12 on the Billboard chart. Didn't break the top 10. In fact, none of the songs on this album broke the top 10 for him. I think Pressure might have made it to 20 that year, but it was it was one of those albums that I couldn't wait for it to come out. And before we got rolling, and before Brad you joined us, I was talking with Steve about how I was probably about this age. So in 1982, I had just turned 14 when this album came out. It actually was released on September 23rd of 1982. I turned 14 the day before, on the 22nd, and I probably ran out. I remember going and getting the album, and it was one of the few albums that I actually went and bought. Usually I was just getting record albums through the Columbia Record and Tape Club. You buy your 14, whatever it was, for a penny. But this is one that I was waiting for. Because I was a huge Glass Houses fan. And I played the hell out of the first side of that album and hardly ever flipped it over. So it was about that age that I realized, and I started thinking about albums, and I was like, you know what? I think the artists put all their good stuff on the first side and then all their fillers on the second side. Sometimes the filler stuff kind of blends over a little bit into the first side, and you end up listening to it. But if there are any Billy Joel fans out there that have Glass Houses, I don't know if you guys know the album, but all the hits from that album were on the first side.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
And there was one other song that was on there, All for Lena, and that rounded out the first side. And it was one of those things that you just put the needle on the record and you played it. And then, if you had one of those ones that was like it would automatically drop the next album. Remember those?
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
sure.
You put it on there, it had this automatic thing, and would drop the next album.
Up,
so I would just line up and stack up all the albums that I wanted to hear, and I only played the first side. Like, I would never flip, because then you have to pick all the records out. You had to flip them over.
So much work.
It's too much. So I really don't know much of the music that was on the second side, to be honest. I just played the hell out of the first. And that's the only reason that I know Laura.
I actually remember the B-side from this. I saw him on this tour. First time I saw Billy Joel, I think I've only seen him twice. And he played some of side B even live. He played Scandinavian Skies.
The tour of Germany was bleeding into our eyes, and we were sailing over Scandinavian skies.
So I do know that, when I looked at the album, the songs that were on here, the tracks, She's Right on Time. I think he even still plays that. I think he might play that and so I knew that. And going through, I was like, yeah, I remember listening to this, but it wasn't something that I let it play the B-side. And back then, what were albums? They were like, I don't know, $4.99, $5.99 or something like that at the Woolco or wherever I got my records. I think I probably got this one at Woolco. But to me, it was, Allentown, Pressure, Good Night Saigon, was even released as a single. Didn't do that well back then, but it ended up being a song that if you listen to the Russian concert, he's singing that there. And it's interesting that he's singing that there in front of what really was the other side in that war. It was a proxy war a little bit with the Russians, but we were in that. So it was interesting that he would sing that song there live when he did that concert over there.
It's a great album, but I'd be curious what your deep cut is.
So my deep cut is actually a song. It's the only other song that is on the A side, of course, that wasn't released as a single.
Can't be troubled to turn it over. Favorite half albums of 1982.
So I'm playing. No, before I did this, so I played side B, and I would listen to the first 5 seconds, and I would just go skip, skip, because it's so easy now. Skip. Which we don't have that with CDs and streaming. You can play the whole thing straight through. And so I ended up getting more into the entire album after CDs came out. But my deep cut is Laura.
Laura calls me in the middle of the night, passes on her painful information, then these careless fingers, they get caught in her vice till they're bleeding on my coffee table. Living alone isn't all that it's cracked up to be. Oh, I'm on her side. Why does she push the poison on me?
Oh, this is dark and depressing.
Yeah, it is. It's and it wasn't released as a single, but it was on the B side of Pressure.
Okay,
so
that's a feel good. That's a feel good purchase, right
boy.
there.
Yeah, I'm sure glad I dropped 99 cents on that. Now I don't have enough money to buy the rope.
So yeah, the whole song, he's just bitching about this woman, Laura, who is, kind of feels like she is just relying on him. Just, you get those calls late at night. And I felt like she was kind of somebody who was out drinking all night long, got home from the bar, couldn't hook up with anybody at the bar, gets home and calls Billy. And, it's got that feel, but on the upside, it sounds just like a Beatles tune. So I was kind of, my young age, I didn't really know what to take from that. Because at a young age, you're just kind of listening to the music. You're not really too into the lyrics and what they're trying to say and subtleties of the lyrics. Although, looking back at this, there isn't a whole lot of subtlety in this song.
No.
He drops the F-bomb in this, so it wasn't going to get any radio play. And I'm pretty sure he's not, wasn't going to get any radio play anyway, but definitely made sure that it wasn't going to happen because he dropped the F-bomb. And of course, I remember as a kid, hearing that going, oh, he said the F word. Like that was a huge, wasn't even damn, it wasn't even held. He went straight for the jugular.
I checked to see, like, when did he last play it? he plays Pressure in Allentown pretty much consistently these days off this album. but I think you have to go back to 12 Gardens Live, his live album from 2006, and you will see it there.
Wow.
Laura, he does that.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen Billy in concert. I don't know, probably close to a dozen times. I saw him with Billy Joel about half a dozen. I saw him with Elton John a bunch of times. Saw him solo a bunch of times. I never heard him do that, but almost every concert he's doing Allentown and Pressure. So,
you know what else? You know what I like to do about a dozen times right now?
The Seggies.
Hey, it's time for TV Party Tonight. Our challenge to recall a very old, outdated, and largely forgotten theme song from a TV show in the 80s. Was I a little too negative there?
No. I think you're stating the facts given the quantity of answers we got back this year.
Yes, it's supposed to be difficult. Anyway, we'll play a snippet of a theme song from an 80s TV show. If you know it, you enter. You possibly win some swag. Are we all caught up on the swag by now?
No, I have a couple to send out.
Okay. And
I'll get right on that, boss. I got top men working on it.
Top men.
Top men.
Anyway, from episode 640, here it is. Well, nobody got it.
Nobody got it. I thought that was a nice long clip, too. I thought people would get that.
So you know what? Not going to tell you what it is, though.
No, I'm going to pull a longer clip. I mean, look, we didn't have any answers, so we even skipped this in our rotation to give people more time to write in, but apparently that's a lost cause, too. So we're just going to play a longer clip and hope for the best. We believe in you, listeners. I know somebody out there knows it, and I'm going to give you one small hint. This television program ran for over 20 years on the Fox network. And it's sort of kind of reality TV, sort of.
And if nobody gets it this time, what will happen?
We'll hint at who the original host was.
Okay.
And that'll be a dead giveaway, as Shalimar says.
Anyway, pay attention. Here is the longer clip. If you know it, email us at podcast@sit80s.com. Ooh, that's a throat clear every time. And tune in, and the way we're going, tune in 6 months and find out if you're a winner. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
I can't believe it. Don't you ever quit? I've been away a long time, and my roommate's still going strong.
Renews it Roommate Air Freshener with twice the freshening liquid, so it freshens air longer than Magic Mushroom.
Long-lasting roommate.
And we're back. We have just a few minutes left. Wanted to thank some of the people who support us on Patreon. As you know, the podcast is listener supported. If you become a member at Patreon, you get access to our Patreon only blog that I write in several times a week. And we're also doing Patreon only podcast, which we call members only. And we just posted our third episode of that. But some of our newest patrons, Michelle Thomas, Billy Paducah, Mike Berman, Chad B, Dave Dirt, Marlon Moyer, Ed Bracey, and Larry O'Farrell. Thank you so much for your support. And as always, you can go to patreon.com/stuckinthe80s podcast to learn more. You can join for $2 a month. It's that easy.
Such a deal.
We hope you enjoyed the music in this week's show. And along with Chuck, Brad, myself, we remain here, hopelessly stuck in the 80s.
Stuck in the 80s is now on Patreon. If you'd like to support the show, go to patreon.com/stuckinthe80s podcast. Special thanks to Check Battery Daily for our theme music, and thanks for listening.